Good evening, everyone. You will have to excuse me because I don't have a voice right now, but I would like to thank each and every one of you for coming out tonight. This is to inform everyone of what all has been going on. Our lawyers will explain a lot more. We will take questions at the very end of the forum. But we are going to start with, just like we do a regular board meeting, we are going to have our prayer by Ms. Dorothy Parker, our pledge by Mr. Matt Tanton, and we will have our roll call. So, Ms. Dorothy.
Let us bow. Most holy and gracious God, Father, we come at this hour with bowed heads, humble spirits, and our hearts are filled with gratitude. Father, we thank you now for our day's journey. And Father, this evening, you know the cause that we gather here. And Father, we just ask you to create in us clean hearts, renewing us the right spirit. And Father, help us in this day and time. Help us to be fair. Help us to be honest. And Father, when it's all said and done, we will give you all the glory, all the honor, and all the praise for what you are so worthy of. These blessings we ask in the mighty name of Jesus. And we all say, amen.
Salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Go ahead.
We will call for a special meeting of the Concordia Parish School Board on December 17th, 2024. Ms. Dorothy Parker. Here. Mr. Fred Marsalis.
Here.
Ms. Vanessa Howe. Here. Mr. Derek Carson.
Present.
Ms. Angela Hayes. Here. Mr. Wayne Wilson. Mr. Matt Tanton. Mr. Fred Butcher.
Present.
Ms. Lisette Foreman.
Here.
Madam President, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Just a quick, just in case, for those of y'all who do not know me, I am Lisette Foreman. I am your board president. My phone number is posted any place that y'all need it. If you need to get in touch with me, all you have to do is ask me or ask somebody sitting next to you, because most everybody has it. But anyway, we're gonna, Mr. John Geis is going to be our first speaker for the night. Thank you, sir.
I see a lot of folks standing up in the back. There's quite a few chairs up here and a few over here. If anybody needs a seat, we've got seating up here. Look, I know who I am is not important tonight, but I want to let you know I'm from Sicily Island. I was fortunate enough to go to school and still practice in the rural areas where I was raised. This nose is the result of Walter Johnson, a football player in Faraday. D. Fairclough coached against Raymond Peace when I played, and my father actually taught his very first year of school in the 60s at the school across the levee here. And so I know what it's like to be in a rural community. I wouldn't trade it for anything, and I know you feel the same way. So I want to start off by letting you know why we're here, what we're going to do tonight, and how we're going to do it. First of all, we're going to give everybody the respect. We're going to ask anybody that wants to make a comment to have 2 minutes so we can hear from everybody tonight. And I would only ask that everyone who has the mic be given the respect to finish their comments. And we'll do the same when it comes your turn to speak. And so we're going to handle it that way. We also all know why we're here tonight, that a proposed consent decree is going to come before the board. I want to acknowledge the receipt before the meeting of a change.org petition. I want the record to note that we have received that as well. But I want to start by letting you know that there has been 0 decisions made. In fact, this board over here is giving you this opportunity to come, present your petition, speak out, give us the benefit of your thoughts on this process. We have with us tonight representatives of the Attorney General's office who are going to speak, and they're going to share their thoughts as well. So no decisions have been made. This is an information sharing process where you can express your thoughts to the board in anticipation of ultimately they will have to respond. So that's what we're going to do tonight. And let me give you some background before I turn it over to those that are going to speak. This case has been pending since November the 30th, 1965. There are probably 10 or 12 continued desegregation cases pending in the state. The whole purpose of the desegregation lawsuit is to bring the system into a unitary status, and for the federal judge who's been overseeing this case to relinquish control back to the school board. And when that happens, we call that unitary status. The judge has signaled to us that the court is ready to make that handoff, but he has invited the parties to come together, and if they cannot reach an agreement as to how that can be done through a resolution, then it will require a trial in litigation there. So those are the options. Each have their benefits and their cost, but the Justice Department's proposal that they've been discussing with Mr. Blanchard is what is going to ultimately come before this board. This was just received. It's not like something that we've had for months. It's just been received. The judge has told us that we have until December the 31st to let the Justice Department know what our response is. So I want to assure you that no decision has been made, and we are under the directive of the court to let them know what our response is by December 31st. I'd be remiss, I look over and I notice the mayor. I want to thank him for his hospitality and sharing this facility with us. It's the first time I've been here tonight. Quite frankly, I didn't realize how nice it was. Thank you, Mayor. All right. So if you have not been, the only way you wouldn't know that there's been a change in Washington is to have been living in a cave. As the Attorney General's office is going to share, there's some changes that are going on in Washington. Those may impact the ultimate decision that's going on here. And so that bears watching as well. So that's the backdrop under which we start. We've got the proposal, And Mr. Blanchard is going to come up and kind of hit the high points of that proposal. But let me tell you, what is a federal court looking at to determine if we have done enough to be declared unitary? They're going to look at our student assignments, where students are assigned, our faculty and staff assignments. They're going to look at transportation, extracurricular activities. They're going to look at, sometimes they'll get into other little factors like education and the discipline, but those 6 preceding ones are what we call the green factors. And I mention that because you're going to hear that talked about tonight. And that all that means is there was a case named Green a long time ago, and those were what the court looked like, talked about in the Green case, and those are the factors that the court is going to use. Now, since I've been coming to Concordia over the last 20 years, a lot of things have changed. We know that Faraday's closed, Ridgecrest has been reconfigured. The composition of the board has changed several times, as has the superintendent. We have had a lot of changes. We've had financial changes. We've had charter schools in the district, which have impacted the board's unitary status as well. So we are aware of all of these unique situations, and the speakers that follow me will address those. Now, look, we may have differences of opinion on where we've been and why we are here, okay? But the one thing we share in common is we all know where we want to be. We know that we want what's best for our kids. We know that we want control of the district returned to the citizens and the people you elect to represent you. We can all agree with that. We know that the court is ready to release control as long as we can satisfy the factors that we're going to talk about tonight. And we know that the Attorney General shares those goals and is willing to lend her support to whatever decision this board makes. And there are going to be things said tonight that will enlighten you, we hope. But I hope you also understand that we're here tonight to hear from you. Please just give the speaker who's speaking the courtesy of listening. And you've been very gracious to me as I welcome you tonight. And I certainly appreciate your time. Members of the board, thank you for having us.
So, I echo what our board president, Mr. Geis, have said, that this is a tremendous turnout. It just shows, how much this community cares about what happens to your schools, what happens, not only with this case, but for the long-term future of this district. As Mr. Geis said, the ultimate goal here is to make sure that, we can make the right decision, which has not been made yet, but that right decision, the board members have to weigh where do we go from here? As Judge Drell requires this December 31st decision. And as we indicated, the most important thing here is we want to hear from you all. We want to hear what the public thinks about this plan, what we think about this proposal. And I know sitting here, this is about 80 some odd pages. This is not necessarily a light read. And the board made the decision that they wanted to release this to you so you all are aware of what is pending in this litigation. And I'm here tonight to talk to, as Mr. Geis said, about the highlights of this plan. I know you all have access to it. We're not going to be going over, the granular details of it per se, but we want to make sure that, the important things that come out of this, we want to try to clear up any miscommunication about what this may be about, what this isn't. I'm sure there has been a lot of discussion in the last week. And one thing I want to say too, when we do allow for the public comment, one thing that I'll add to what Mr. Geis said, we are, my name is John Blanchard. I live in Livingston. I've been in Baton Rouge for over 10 years now, but I come from a little town called Long Beach, Mississippi. But I've been here, I went to law school here. I stayed here. I met my wife here. So, I appreciate, I've been doing these cases for roughly a decade now. In various aspects of different areas of the state, and this this potential change is one of the most important things that a school district can consider, especially where your children go to school. And every single one of these board members appreciates that, where your children go to school is some of the most important decisions that you can make. You might buy your house where they go to school. These attendance zones have been in place for a very long time. We went back and looked, these attendance zones have been in place for 30 years. Now, we did close Clayton, I think, in the 1990s. Ridgecrest had to close because of population changes, but those were not decisions made lightly by the board. And the decision on what to do with this proposal that's before them is not a light decision either. But what we'll ask is that if you come up to ask questions, we will answer them if we can. We can't necessarily answer a legal question for you, but if you want to ask a fact question that we might be able to answer for you, we understand that there may be some burning questions and we may be able to answer them, we may not. If we are able to answer them, we're going to do our best to answer them. If there's a question about where will my child go to school, we're going to do our best to answer those, but please know that, we cannot answer every single question, but we respect that there are a lot of questions about this proposal and we're going to do our best to answer them. But, as Mr. Geis indicated, we do have 6 green factors that are in front of the board. And I want to make sure, everybody understands what we're looking at here, for example, with facilities. Well, facilities, how do the schools look? Are they comparable? Historically, if we look at, back in the day, there were black and white schools. Are they comparable to each other? Do they look similar, not the same? Do we have the same maintenance done? Is there any neglect done at your schools? Those are the types of questions that are asked when we look at your facilities. And when it comes to this proposal, what is being asked is that if the board spends, over $150,000 on construction or maintenance or renovations, the Department of Justice would like to know about that. They'd like to know and be able to say, well, is this being done equitably? Is this being done fairly? Are we spending money improperly? Are we favoring anybody? Are we favoring anybody by race? But what is also part of this proposal, as some of you may be aware, the board has taken their own voluntary initiative to do a beautification project at Faraday High School, which is what, $5.2 million, I think? Somewhere around $5 million to, renovate, the parking, drainage, the inside and outside of the facilities. And that's a decision the board made on their own. They recognize that, it's one of the oldest buildings in your school district. I think it's the second oldest, if I remember correctly. So on their own, over the last year and a half or so, that they've been making those decisions that something needs to be done. But as part of the proposal, the United States of America thinks something needs to be done as well. And they're saying, school board, move forward with that proposal. Just keep us informed about it, keep doing it. They also want the board to make sure that their annual inspections done properly, that if there's maintenance to be done, it's done timely. So, if we're in the winter and the heater breaks, somebody's going to respond to that on a timely basis. Or in the summer, if the air conditioning breaks, nobody wants to wait 2 weeks for an air conditioning to be fixed at a school. So those are some of the types of things that we're looking at here with facilities, dealing with maintenance and also construction. Now, extracurricular activities, football, clubs, sports. Those are the types of things that we're talking about with extracurricular activities. Those are the things that happen outside classroom that children voluntarily go into. And the legal standard there, generally speaking, is the school board allows anybody to participate voluntarily if they want to. If a student doesn't want to participate, we're not going to force them to do it, but it's equal and open to anybody to participate. Here, too, what's being asked here is that we do a survey to see if there's any interest. I'm sure some of you all know there's no football in Monterey, there's no baseball in Faraday for various reasons, various interests over the years. So part of the proposal would be for the board to do a survey to say, okay, who's interested in what sport, what activity, what do you want to see in your community? And we would take that information to say, okay, can we make that happen or can we not make that happen? Building a football field, building a baseball field, those kinds of things, what type of money would be required? Or, hypothetically, if students are interested in a chess club, or I know I talked to Mr. Shirley about the Dungeons and Dragons Club at the Magnet School. Those things, they're lower cost. They may be able to be done, but They want to gauge the interest of the community and students to see what do you want to do? And is it something that the district can be, we can do? If there's not a financial prohibition, is that something we can do? And just as with facilities, the United States would want us to be in communications with them to say, okay, here's why or why not we can make that work or not make it work. Now, transportation, some of you may have seen, transportation is how kids get to and from school on a school bus. Way a long time ago, there used to be black and white buses. It's not that way anymore. It was wrong back in the day, but as part of this proposal, this would let that green factor go, and full control over your transportation would return to your school district. And a minor exception to that would be, some of you may be aware of something called a majority to minority transfer. What that is if a student is in the majority race at their school, so a black student at Faraday, they wanted to go to Vidalia or Monterey, where they would be in the minority, that's called a majority to minority transfer, and the board gives you transportation, free transportation. We're required to do that by law. Otherwise, transportation, the board can make decisions on transportation without having to get court approval to do that. This proposal would release transportation from the school board. Now, faculty and staff assignment, they are two distinct factors. Sometimes they're combined, but what that is, as Mr. Guy said, is where your teachers go to school. How are they assigned by central office? So with staff, it's where your administrators, your principals, assistant principals. We also look at your paraprofessionals. How are they distributed across the district? Another component of this that has been requested is that we try to make substantially similar the number of certified teachers across your district. I think as some of you may know, and if not, there's a significant teacher shortage across the country, especially here in Louisiana, and there's a certified teacher shortage on top of that. Many school districts find it difficult to recruit teachers, but as part of the proposal with faculty and staff, it would include recruiting procedures and protocols. The board would make an effort to try to recruit more certified black teachers, make the effort. And we would not hire based on race. I want to make that clear. No decision hiring faculty or staff would be made based on race. It would be hiring the most qualified person, because that's what's, at the end of the day, the most important thing is that we have the most qualified teacher or administrator teaching your children. We would not be picking anybody based on solely the color of their skin. We shouldn't be done that way. That's why what is written in here is that it's the most qualified person. And trying to distribute certified teachers across the district, well, that would mean that central office would have to, where do we need certified teachers? Can we? Now, when it comes to student assignment, which I know is probably one of the most important things that we can consider, this bill and proposal that's before the board has multiple components to it with student assignment. And I know I don't have a digital copy of this, but we do have these boards in the front and the back, and we have provided digital copies of these. The proposal that is in front of the board for pre-K to 8th grade would be to pair Vidalia and Faraday schools. And what that means is that, and you may not have seen in this summary pre-K or in this proposal pre-K, because generally pre-K it's not compulsory. By law, a student is not required to go to pre-K. So it's not generally part of these types of lawsuits. But what it means as part of this proposal was that, the capacities of your schools were looked at, what can we do? And the idea was, well, why don't we have a pre-K center in Vidalia? Could we make it, could it work that way? Well, based purely on the numbers of how many students could fit in your schools, that's what the proposal allows the board to do. It allows the board to make the decision of where do we put a pre-K center. That's up to the discretion of the school boards. However, all students between Faraday and Vidalia in kindergarten to grade 2 would go to Vidalia Upper Elementary School. All students in grades 3, 4, and 5 would attend Faraday Upper Elementary School, and all students in 6, 7, and 8 would attend Faraday Junior High School. Now, in 9th through 12th grade, that's when the attendance zones that I have up here, that's when these would come back into play. That Faraday and Vidalia would maintain their own separate high schools. However, the attendance zones would change. And I know it's difficult, and some of you may not be able to see it. but the attendance zone line would move as far east as Roundtree Road. And so if you're on Roundtree Road, that would mean your student would go to Faraday rather than Vidalia. And I won't go through all the technical aspects of exactly where on the map. If you have questions about that, we can certainly answer it. But these zones, this would mean more students would go to Faraday rather than Vidalia. As part of the proposal, though, if a student is a rising junior or a rising senior, you may elect to stay where you are. You just have to notify the board that, well, no, I want my child to stay where I am. Look, you've already bought your Letterman jacket, you've already bought your rings, they've already got their friends, they're a year away from graduation. We realize that this, would impact those students probably the most, that you've been going to a high school for 3 years, no, we're going to move you somewhere else. So we would grandfather those children into that. It would be optional. You just have to notify central office, no, I want my student to stay where they are. They're a rising junior, rising senior, I want them to stay where they are. But that's a package deal as part of this proposal that the board has received, that if we have the certified teacher goals, well, we get pairing for rising juniors and seniors. Now, I also wanted to let you all know, because we think it's important, how many students would be impacted by this change. Now, this is information from last year. I don't have this year's information, but for the move between Faraday High School and Vidalia High School, that'd be a total of 93 students who are moving. And of those students, it would be 78 white, 12 black, and 3 other. And as Mr. Geis mentioned earlier, part of these cases is trying to determine, how can we best integrate your schools? And your schools, I think everybody in the room can understand, Faraday is a majority black schools. All 4 schools, about 90% black. So this proposal is designed to integrate those schools, bring black and white students together, and improve it in that way, if you will. If you will pardon the word, improve may not be the right word, but it's integration, and that's what this proposal is at the end of the day. Because as Mr. Geis indicated, the board has a choice to accept, reject, and that decision hasn't been made. And the pro and con there is, if there's a rejection, this turns it over to the hands of the federal judge. And the federal judge, this may be what it looks like at the end of the day. He may dismiss the case and give the board full control. We don't know. We do not know the answer to that question. That is what a trial would be for, that we'd have to go and put this in front of the judge, and he's the ultimate decision maker at the end of the day. But with that said, though, I also wanted to mention what we sometimes call quality of education. Dealing with discipline in the district, as well as gifted and talented students. What this proposal does, I think you all are aware. I wasn't personally involved, but I've talked a lot with the superintendent that you all did a comprehensive discipline plan. I think it was 2 years ago, right, Mr. Superintendent? 2 years ago, the community we got together with the community. We heard feedback from stakeholders. How can we improve the discipline code? How can we make it better? We want to make sure that discipline is fair and, all students are treated equal. But we also, as you all know, there's got to be a set of rules that everyone has to comply with. But we want to make sure they're fair, that there isn't anything arbitrary against these students. So the community got together approximately 2 years ago and completely revised your code. Now, as part of this proposal, the district would be required to review its discipline information twice a year and see, okay, are teachers applying it the way that they should? If 2 students got into a fight, are they both, equally have the same consequences? Like that type of thing, depending on the circumstances. I'm generalizing, but do we have fair treatment and discipline? Are students getting the same types of consequences? Do we have no unfair treatment? Review that to make sure, if teachers are doing things they shouldn't be doing, well, no, we might need to give them some more professional development. This is what the code of conduct is. What it also requires is the district to see, is there anything going on with race? Are students being discriminated against with discipline? Now, this is not a quota. We're not trying to, discipline students on a 50-50 basis, nothing along those lines. But it would be a review to make sure that there's nothing going on that's improper. teachers are fairly implementing it regardless of race, because that's the goal. That's what it is at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what your race is. This is the code of conduct that applies to everybody. Now, on gifted and talented as well, the proposal there would be to have enrichments the same across the district, especially for your elementary school students. So for example, if some students are getting an enrichment like dance, if that's at Faraday, we'd make sure that's at Vidalia, we'd make sure that's at Monterey, so that students have equal opportunities to learn from those enrichments, that maybe it can benefit them in math or science, whatever the enrichment is, it would be to make sure everyone gets an equal opportunity for those enrichments. This would also require additional testing. So we do testing, that's at third grade, right? This third grade. So you all know third grade is where we do universal screening. And I may be using the terminology wrong, but all students are screened in the third grade to see, okay, are you gifted and academically gifted? And the ask in this proposal is, we'll do it another year. Whether it's in second grade or fourth grade, do it another year so that students have another opportunity. Okay, maybe it was a bad test in your third grade, but in fourth grade, okay, maybe you can get it there. That's what they're calling for in this proposal here, to expand those opportunities for students. The other piece of this quality of education is to see if there's any interest, for high school students. Is there any classes you want to take? I know all too well from working with school districts across the state that, sometimes you can't offer biology, sometimes you can't offer chemistry because you don't have the teacher. But this would be to see if the community are interested. What types of classes would you like your students to take? What type of opportunities would you like them to have? And are there differences between how we're doing that between the schools? And sometimes that's, like I said, purely because we only have one teacher in the district that teaches chemistry. Again, that's just an example. Not saying you only have one chemistry teacher, but that's the type of thing that this proposal calls for, is doing a survey of you as parents to see what are the things that you're interested in and can we make it happen. Another part of this is to make sure, if we have offer tutoring in one school or one area, we make sure it's available to everybody. That we try to make sure everyone has the same opportunity to learn and grow. And if if teachers are tutoring after school at one school, make that available to everybody else. Now, those are the highlights of this plan. Now, there are a lot of pieces to this plan. There are a lot of different aspects to it. But again, no decision has been made by the school board. And I'm going to hand it over shortly to our colleague at the Attorney General's office, and let her speak on her behalf. But I also, again, I want to thank you all for coming out tonight and showing this interest. And I'll repeat what Mr. Guy said to those of you who are standing in the back. There are some seats up front. I know I can see a little bit better here than maybe some of you are. There are a number of empty seats out here. So, we'd welcome you all to come closer if you want to. There's plenty of opportunity for you. And with that said, Ms. Brumgard, I'll hand it over to you.
Good evening. I'm glad to see you all tonight. My name is Morgan Brungard. I am a Deputy Solicitor General in the Louisiana Attorney General's office in Baton Rouge. And I'm here tonight on behalf of the Louisiana Attorney General, Liz Murrell. As was explained by the board's lawyers, Mr. John Geis and Mr. John Blanchard, the Federal Department of Justice, headed by the Federal Attorney General in Washington, D.C., wants the board to agree to change attendance zones and a bunch of other things, the things that Mr. Blanchard just described, to resolve a lawsuit that the Department of Justice filed against this board in the 1960s. We are aware that the board and the community are unhappy with the changes that the Department of Justice is asking the board to make. In fact, we received a petition tonight, 862 signatures, asking the board to vote no on this proposal. The Attorney General has received questions from community members about why their children have to change schools, Why now? And who is behind these changes? And the board has asked for the Attorney General's opinion, legal opinion, on the DOJ's proposal. And I am here tonight to tell the board and the community that the Attorney General, Liz Murrill, hears you, and we share your concerns. We urge the board not to accept DOJ's proposal because it is for a bunch of reasons that I'm about to explain. Y'all made me lose my spot. Because and the reasons why are because the proposal is premature, and because it is bad for the board, bad for the community, and bad for the state. Just look around at how many people there are here tonight. And y'all have only had a week to look at this. This is moving way too fast. And the reason that the proposal is premature is because the DOJ in Washington, D.C., not to be confused with my office, is about to get a new attorney general who will institute new policies and bring in new people. This is important because the DOJ's Office of Civil Rights, the very office that has been negotiating with Mr. Blanchard, was under orders during the first Trump administration not to make proposals like this one. Did you hear that? Not to do it. And the reason we know this is because the Solicitor General of Louisiana, Ben Aguinaldo, worked at the Office of Civil Rights from 2017 to 2018, and he has confirmed that the office's marching orders during that time were to avoid making proposals like this. We also know that the federal attorney general at the time, Jeff Sessions, wrote a memo instructing DOJ employees against proposals like this one. Now, of course, the current DOJ employees who have been negotiating with the board, they know all this. They know that a new administration is about to come in, change all of the policies, bring in new people. And so what they do? They've tried to lock in this deal before everything changes. What they are trying to lock in is not a good deal for the board for a variety of legal reasons. And here they come. First, there are so many unresolved legal issues that may eliminate the need to make any changes at all. And we believe that the board should raise those issues to the judge before thinking about agreeing to changes, because that would allow the judge to decide whether this case should even continue. Second, the Department of Justice has not given the board much in return for making all of these changes. In fact, this deal doesn't actually settle the lawsuit. So there's nothing stopping DOJ from coming back to ask for more changes in the future. That's not a very good deal. Third, the DOJ wants to mandate that the student population at every school be within 15% of the district-wide ratio of Black students and white students. And in our experience, it's very difficult for rural parishes with spread out communities like here in Concordia Parish to reach that percentage without busing kids around. So if the board agrees to this ratio and then does not meet it at even one school, there's nothing stopping the DOJ from coming back and trying to move attendance zones again, or for asking for more aggressive measures like closing schools, busing kids, just to try to get the numbers right. Fourth, this is my last reason, the DOJ wants to stop the board from being able to end this case for at least 3 more years. That's in the agreement. They've asked the board to keep this case open for at least 3 more years. And during that time, the board will not be able to make any changes without the judge's approval. So the people that you elected will not be able to do the things that the community is asking, because the board will have to go and get the judge's approval. If the judge says no, then that's the answer. So they're no longer democratically accountable to y'all. And we think that's a problem. We do not know why the board would agree to tie its own hands in that way without first making sure that it is indeed what is required by the law and by the new Department of Justice. So all this to say, there are just too many unanswered questions, and this is moving too fast for it to make sense to uproot students and their families at this time. We urge the board not to lock itself into an agreement that in just over 1 month may not be required at all. Given what happened in 2017 and 2018, the new DOJ is very likely to have very different ideas about how this lawsuit should be resolved. We think it is in the board's best interest, the community's best interest, and the state's best interest for the board to wait until then to see what the new DOJ or how the new DOJ will view this case. For these reasons, it is the legal opinion and official recommendation of the Louisiana Attorney General, Liz Murrill, that the board wait to make any decisions until the new administration takes office. Thank you.
Folks, at this time, we're going to ask anyone that wants to speak to address the board to come up to the mic. We're going to time it. Hopefully you understand the need to keep us in some semblance of order. So if you would come forward at this time, we'd receive it. Thank you.
I'm Jeff. Is this on? Yes. Yeah. I'm Jeff McClure. I live in Vidalia. I'm a retired teacher from Catahoula Parish. I taught in my home parish for years, and a retired businessman from here in Vidalia. I just want to say that thank you, ma'am, for the Attorney General's suggestion. I knew we voted for the right person when we elected her, because questions that have been running through my mind are, and I don't have any children in the school system anymore. I did have 3 out at CPA, but they've graduated and or moved. But questions have been, number 1, why now? 2, why so fast? And number 3, what will it benefit us? When I was growing up in Catahoula Parish, and I'm from the rural part of Jonesville, I rode a school bus for an hour each way back and forth to the schools in Jonesville. And I know what, like the kids who live the elementary ones who live up in the tippy top of the parish, if they've normally been going to Faraday High School, if they've got to be bused all the way, or to Faraday Elementary, if they've got to be bused over to Vidalia, that puts a lot more strain on our youth. And it really, the question is, what would this realignment do for us? And number 1, what would it do for our students? Because those are the ones that are going to make it worthwhile to continue living in Concordia Parish. Thank you.
How are y'all doing tonight? My name is Ross Brazier. I have kids at Vidalia Lower. So I did a little bit of research about the school performance scores between Faraday and Vidalia. And one issue I would like to raise is for us moving K through 2nd grade to the upper, it doesn't make a lot of sense because that school was not designed for elementary school kids. It was designed for older kids. It's not the most handicapped accessible school in our district. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me to leave the school that was designed for children of that age completely empty, and also to have the Vidalia Junior High just be completely empty, vacant buildings. We already have so many students that make up that area that having unused buildings doesn't really serve a purpose for the community or the school district. When it comes to moving the kids that would be going to Faraday Upper, judging off I have scores all the way dating back to 2015. There was not a single year that Faraday Upper or Faraday Junior High actually met a passing mark for performance scores. So if that's where we're intending to send these kids to get their educations, what do you intend to do to help improve those test scores? Because with the max being a 55.7 in performance score and that's at the very tippy top, it doesn't seem to me that that's the best place that we need to be busing our kids to get the best value for their education. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Chandra Collins, and I'm sure I'm familiar to a whole lot of people here. And I'm here to ask the board to vote yes to the proposal, because I read the article in the paper, I am the one who filed the complaint with the DOJ in 2023 because of the targeting that my granddaughter endured at the hands of the staff at the school that she was attending. Forgive me. It shouldn't have never been. And because of what she has endured, this proposal would ensure no other child in Concordia Parish would endure what she suffered at the hands of the principal and teachers at the Concordia Parish Academy. I have a 2-year timeline in my hand that I had given to the board, so a whole lot of people here is aware of it. And I will commend that changes have been made, but we still have a long way to go. The intimidation of following me, trying to harass me, I call it stalking. You're not going to bend me, because I didn't ask for this, because my granddaughter had a right to a free, fair, and appropriate education that for 2 whole years that she didn't endure, and even was given a summons to appear in court on March the 1st of 2023. I hired an attorney. Did nobody show up in court but the attorney I retained. No child in Concordia Parish should have to endure what my grandbaby had endured. When she come and ask me, Granny, what's gonna happen to me? Thank you.
My name is Bailey Freelou. I just this past summer graduated from Concordia Parish Academy of Math, Science, and Technology. It's the magnet school in Ridgecrest. I'm currently going to Northwestern studying for computer information systems. It's a business degree. And I have a bunch of friends who plan to go into teaching jobs. My question is, how many jobs are going to be lost by the closure of at least 2 different schools whenever this plan goes through? How is that going to affect them? Do they have any point in coming back here? I'm not sure that they do. And a second thing that I have a lot of concerns about is the mental health of the children. I have little cousins who are 7 and 5, and the mental health of their mother, who is going to have to worry about busing them to 2 different schools because they're at different grade levels right now. I think it's very, very important that we remember how the children are going to react to these kinds of changes. Going from one school to the next, having to deal with new teachers, new principals, new rules, new environments, new everything in the span of maybe going to school for what, a couple, 3 years at some points? That's a really important thing to think about. I feel like that's going to cause a lot of problems with their grades and everything else. I know that I personally had to deal with a lot of bullying whenever I was going to Harrisonburg, HHS. My mom moved to Vidalia so that I could go to either Vidalia or Concordia Parish. I feel like the best choice here would be to let the parents choose, no matter where they are in the parish, which school they'd like to go to in the same parish, as long as they live in Concordia. Why force these children to go into certain places for the sake of numbers? There's more important things at hand here. And I feel like people are ignoring that because the numbers seem wrong from a case that's from the 1960s. That's all I have to say.
My name is Ruth Powers. I'm a Vidalia resident and a retired teacher from the Concordia Parish Schools. You pretty much, I think, answered my question earlier, but I just want a clarification again. Even should this thing pass, Vidalia Lower will remain a school, will it?
Yes, sir, I can answer that for you. Right now, as I mentioned, that's not in the plan, but if it were to go through, the board would be using it as a pre-K center.
The reason I'm asking is because if it ever is closed as an educational institution, Concordia Parish School Board loses that property. That property was donated by my family. The deed of donation reads that it was donated to the Concordia Parish School Board specifically to be used for the education of the children of Vidalia. And there's a clawback. Should it ever cease to be used for the education of children, it reverts to the heirs of the family.
How y'all doing? My name's Daniel Baumgartner. I'm a new resident of Vidalia. I was born and raised in Natchez. And but my family's got deep roots here. My grandfather and grandmother were Earl and Corrine Cotton. They lived over on Plum Street for a long time. I moved here about 3 years ago. I'm a father of 6 kids and 4 grandchildren now. I moved to Vidalia for one reason. Anybody want to guess what it is? It was the closest thing. I'm a working man every day. I try to take Sunday off, to be honest, but sometimes it don't work. But honestly, I moved over here because I couldn't afford to send my children to private school. Okay? Everybody knows AC, everybody knows Cathedral, right? You know what the next runner-up is? Anybody want to answer? Vidalia. So I chose to get a property here, renovate it. So a house was sitting for 15 years. Ain't that what you're supposed to do in a community, is build it up, correct? I'm sorry. In other words, I moved here for a reason and a purpose, and that was to send my children to school. My wife gets up every morning, gets our kids dressed and ready for school. She makes a route right close to our house. We live right next door to where my grandmother and grandfather lived. My grandmother passed away right before I moved in. But my simple point is this. Please, for the sake of my children and my grandchildren, do not push this proposal any further. Please.
Good evening. My name is Brian Young, and I too just moved my family in from the greater Seattle area to set roots here. And the reason for it, I came down here and I saw the great racial equality. I saw inclusiveness. The school system is amazing. I walk in and I see everybody of all colors loving each other. There's no racial tension. I mean, I came from the Seattle area, and they should spend their time looking at that direction. They push people like me out. And so I have a prepared statement here, but I mean, that guy just kind of got me going because I agree with that. I'm here as a concerned parent and advocate for the well-being of students in our community. I am speaking in opposition to the proposed rezoning plan and would significantly alter the attendance boundaries of our schools. This proposal, which stems from the pending desegregation case, seeks to address important issues of quality and compliance. However, I believe this plan risks disrupting what is currently working well in our community, particularly at Vidalia High School. Vidalia High School is a model of diversity and inclusion. Its student body and faculty represents a wide range of backgrounds, working together in an environment that fosters collaboration, academic excellence, and mutual respect. The school is a place where students feel safe, supported, and proud of their community. My son, who's a junior at Vidalia, and many of his classmates have expressed their deep concerns about the possibility of uprooting from a school that has become their second home. While I understand the importance of meeting the goals set forth in the desegregation case, I'm concerned that this rezoning plan may unintentionally create challenges for students and families. For example, transferring students to a new school for their senior year, or that's been eliminated, I understand, or at any stage that their education can be disruptive to their academic and social development. I believe this disruption could be avoided with more thoughtful approach. Instead of shifting boundaries, we should focus on solutions that benefit all schools and all students in our parish. Let's prioritize investments to facilities, programs, and resources that uplift every school community while preserving the diversity and success we see at Vidalia High School. I urge the school board to carefully consider the voices of students, parents, and educators who are directly affected by these changes. Together, we can find a path forward that honors the intent of the case while protecting the quality of education for all. Thank you for your time.
My name is Richie Trujillo. I've advised the board and the district to say no to this proposal. I tell you the reason why. I got 3 cousins in the school system right now. One, with the babysitters sitting for the parents, have to hire babysitters to go pick them up because parents had to work. Number 2, Fairleigh do not have a good sewer system. If they have to use the bathroom, they have to switch it up. And that's my known to say no to this proposal, or either wait for this new proposal to come. Thank you.
My name is Ronnie Blackwell. I was born and raised in Natchez, but I moved to Vidalia 12 years ago. My wife, we live right over here on Locust Street, next to the lower elementary. There's such a drastic difference in the school districts. This is neighborhoods. This is people that, it feels like a Mayberry, which is great. I'm 71 years old. I saw the Natchez School District turn into what it is now. I can't go back to South Natchez that I graduated from. They forced integration on that system over there. The numbers don't match anymore. It's predominantly black. So, I'm not complaining. That's just, we're talking numbers here. So their balancing act didn't work. And I have failed in my lifetime to see the federal government do anything right. The federal DOJ has probably destroyed more communities and school systems than it ever helped.
I'm Ginger Grissom. I'm from Tensall Parish, and I got custody of my grandbabies. and I cannot afford the academy where I went to school. So I looked around at different parishes trying to find the best one, and several people recommended Vidalia. I said, okay, I'll consider it. I got custody of them, moved to Vidalia. They told me I had to be on this side of the airport road in order to go to Vidalia. I went out and bought land, bought a house, put it on the land. We are making that better. And with the new map thing you've got going on, we're going to be going to Faraday. And I'm not going to Faraday. I'm not transporting my kids to Faraday. It's nothing against Faraday. They will either be homeschooled or I'll sell my property and go somewhere else because I bought land for the Vidalia school system. That's where I'm at. And I'm sorry that the one lady that came up here, that something happened to her grandbaby. I don't know the situation. No kid should have to go through anything. I have, like I said, 4 grandkids. I got an autistic one, sort of, kind of, at lower. I got somebody at upper. I got somebody at junior high, and I got somebody at high school. I got 4 kids in 4 locations. I'm not driving to Faraday. I did like the lady with the long hair that said, let them choose where they want to go. Make it an open thing. You're in Concordia Parish. Pick your school. I picked Vidalia. Thank you.
I just don't care about short people. Hi, I'm Erica Carter. I'm a resident of Vidalia. Been here all my life. They pretty much asked most of the questions that I have, but by me having special needs children, I want to know this. Have y'all considered them as far as displacing them from one spot to another? Because when you have special needs children, they have a system. And if they're out of whack with their system, everything's gone wrong. Their whole day is messed up. And with mine, when his day is messed up, my day messed up. And I refuse to have my days messed up because I got to transfer him from day to day. Thank God.
Come back here. I have to echo this. Y'all know my heart is students with disabilities. And I was the director of special ed, not for Vidalia. I was the director for all our students, parish-wide. And moving them back and forth without continuity is a difficult thing. And I think the parents would fret more about their children, and the children will not feel as safe in that environment. So
thank you. Yes, sir.
You asked the question, the issues you raised are not addressed in this proposal.
But the area that we live in, my son would actually have to go from Vidalia to Faraday, and I drive him every day. It's not a day that we gonna miss going to school. And with him going from Vidalia, where he's familiar with the teachers and the students, that's gonna throw him off.
We hear you. We can tell you that what DOJ is looking at is the numbers, and that their offer does not consider things like that.
Okay, but I understand numbers, but at the same time, you would also lose a whole lot of numbers if you decide to look at numbers and not the situation.
So I'm Ryan Nations from Faraday. There have been a lot of people from Faraday talking. If you're a black lady around 65 years old, you probably put a belt to my backside once or twice, right? So no disrespect to anybody, but the people behind me know more about the Concordia Parish schools than the people in front of me. The people to the left of me know more about Concordia Parish schools than the people to the right of me, right? And the difference between us and the people that's bringing this case is we know where Airport Road is. We know where Roundtree is, right? We can find them blindfolded. This is our community, butt out.
Y'all excuse me, I'm nervous. I'm not a public speaker. My name is Erica Busick.
And the point I want to bring is this is about our children. What is best for our children? So you're talking about taking kindergarten through second and putting them in one school, then putting them from second all the way to 8th grade to form lasting friendships in whatever percentage that may be, black or white. And then starting in high school, when they're going through the most peer pressure and need the most support from their peers and their friends that they've made 2nd through 8th, possibly taking that away and sending them to different schools again. So that is something to consider for our children, that they're forming bonds for all that time to possibly have them ripped away when they need them the most in high school. Not to mention my son's in sports. We moved up to a 3A just in Vidalia, and we could barely compete. That was a big jump for our high school football and everything else. So are we looking at going 3A, 4A even? Is our community going to even be able to participate in those sports levels? Thank you.
Hey, I'm kind of like Erica. I'm not a public speaker, but my name is Lacey Kognovich, and my family has been in this parish since before the turn of the century. So I have a child that's in college. He goes to Louisiana Tech, and he is going to get his master's in education. What makes my child want to come back here? I mean, we're going to spread everything out, but we're not going to spread everything out. What's going to make my child want to come back here when we already suffer from the brain drain as it is? Our kids are leaving in record numbers and not coming back. So we're going to consolidate one school, and how many jobs are going to be lost? Now that's one point. Another point is that petition that you hold in your hand was only done in a couple of days. That petition does not even speak for half this parish. It just speaks for the few that have faithful. I worked in Faraday, I work in Vidalia, and there are great people all over this parish. And we have Trojan pride, and we have Viking pride, and we have wolf pride. But we're proud, and that's the thing we need to remember, is to keep that pride, and we want to keep our pride in our own communities. So I ask you to vote no.
We've been under a quarter since 1970. We are not unitary this year. If we couldn't make it in that time, how in the world are we going to make it by December the 31st? I'd like for you to answer that question for me. In Judge Dawkins' court order, there's a statement you need to read. I'm sure you did. He says something, such considerations applied to added force to children of grades in high school to separate them from others of similar age and qualification solely because of their race generates a feeling of inferiority as to their status in community and the effort of their hearts, their minds in ways unlikely even to be untold. Over it, on in the document, there's a part of the decree, and this was in 1970, minority to majority transfer, which the Justice Department already addressed. Since 1970, students and parents have been making a decision to attend the school where they are. The document says a student in a district shall be permitted to attend a school in which his race is a majority to choose to attend another school. Students in Faraday, anytime they choose, can come to Vidalia. White students in Vidalia can choose to go to Faraday. We don't need a new plan. We got a plan. We can choose now. Why do you want to make another plan? All you're going to do is cause a white flight. Look up and down the river and you can see what white flight means. For the school board, when you get white flight or purple flight or green flight or whatever flight you get less people. You're going to have to fire somebody.
you're going to have to take a job. Those people are employed and a part of our community. Get smart. Don't get yourself in water over your head. Judge Dawkins spent about 13 or 14 pages dealing with dismissing people. Do you have a plan for dismissing people? You better get one if you get this plan, because that's what you're going to have. Good luck.
My name is Brian Davis, and I'm sitting in the back and I'm listening to all these comments. And I graduated, I moved on from Clayton Elementary. If y'all don't know, that was Clayton School in Clayton. I grew up in Red Gun. And when we graduated from Clayton, we come on over to Ferry. And I was so happy to get to Ferry that I didn't know what to do. I only stayed in Ferry till my 6th grade year in school. And my mom wanted me to come stay with her in Florida, so I ended up leaving. Spent 3 years in Florida, came back. Fred T. Butcher was my principal. And he was so ecstatic to have somebody to come back here that was academically eligible to do anything that they could, that he didn't know what to do. And my grandparents, I came back to stay with, that's all they talked about. Mr. Butcher said this, Mr. Butcher said that. And that was a burden that I wouldn't put on anybody. But one thing I did, I will bring it forward. All my kids went to Concordia Parish schools. I wasn't satisfied with the course of education. My daughter went from Ferry to Vidalia. I had the ability to move them because of me. He went from Vidalia over to Delta Charter. I'm coaching at Delta Charter. I'm walking the halls and I'm seeing my daughter in front of the class. And anybody know Delta Charter is more of whites than it is blacks. And that bothered me. And I asked her when we got home, why are you always in front of the class? That they can't catch on. I gotta help them catch on, because if not, I'm gonna be left behind. That resonated with me. So my daughter can say that about not just white and black, but about the kids in her class. I'm like, I gotta get her out of here. So I talked to one of my staff members, Coach Collins. Everybody know him. Hey, Ron, you might want to see about taking your daughter to the School for Math and Science over in Natchitoches. I'm like, man, I can't let my baby girl go over there. But you know what? It's not about me. It's about putting her in a situation that's going to help her in life. I took her over there. And I'm sitting here watching graduation of them young kids, collectively $16 million in grants and scholarships. And I'm like, that's amazing. I was so hurt because I'm thinking she's going to Stanford. We sitting at the table, we out to eat, and she telling me, well, Dad, did Mom tell you I'm going to LSU? And my spirits immediately picked up. And I turned my attention to my next boy, Chris. Chris played football. He left Ferry, brought him to Vidalia. What's the difference? Ain't no difference in the schools. It's the difference in the chatter that comes out of the schools. Yeah, I don't like Ferry because of the way Ferry look. But you don't understand that there's great people in Ferry. My baby boy graduated from AC. From AC. If it wasn't for him, they wouldn't have won the state championship. He get over to college. They ain't learning no more over there. He telling me, well, Dad, I'm struggling. Use your resources, son. Use your resources. He go to his academic advisor, and that's where it all rolls in place. He just came home this semester with a 3.5. So I don't want to hear this crap. I ain't taking my child to Ferry. I ain't taking my 5. Y'all didn't say that when that other guy went. I ain't taking my child to Ferry. Crap that. Fairly can offer just the same as everybody else. It's all about white and black, and y'all should be ashamed of yourself. You should be absolutely ashamed of yourself. These older guys sitting here with their hats on, Trump supporters. I don't care about that. This is about this community. Y'all should be ashamed of yourself. My sons, and my daughter are excellent students, and I'll put them up against anybody in this parish and watch them excel. Same way the other kids over in Ferry. The one when I left, my son, the AC, I didn't talk down on Ferry. Everybody that needed me and that wanted something from me, I was there to help. Y'all got to do the same. Y'all got to do the same. This crap here, it's pathetic. And y'all sit here, y'all, it's just pathetic. That's all I'm gonna say. Y'all need God.
Thank you.
Hi, my question is for you. You gave the statistics on the number of high schoolers that it would impact with the change. I believe it was around 98, but you did not give us the statistics on the elementary students it would impact from moving from Verdi to Vidalia or Vidalia to Verdi, or even the Monterey students that the changes would impact. Could we have those?
Yes, ma'am. I don't have in front of me the full breakdown of all the students who would be impacted, but I can tell you the totals. For Monterey High School, I think as you all can see, there is a change. Under the old lines, it's east-west, and the new one, it would be north-south. There's one student who would be affected that would go to Monterey. Other configurations, I'm sitting down, I apologize. Well, it's one student because they're really, in the southern part of the parish, there's not a lot of population down there. So in moving the east side of the southern part of the parish, there's one student. So we do it too. But I can tell you all that under the configuration that if today Lower Elementary School is used as a pre-K school, it would total 141 students. And that would be 64 white, 71 black, and 6 other. So under Vidalia Upper Elementary School as a K2, it would be 541 students, 226 white, 275 black, and 40 other. Verdi Upper Elementary School, 3 to 5, would be 511 students total, 213 white, 271 black, and 27 other. Now others, all other races, just to be clear. And then Verdi Junior High School, 6 to 8, would be 490 students, 174 black, 174 white, 298 black, and 18 other.
I'm back. I'm sorry. I should have said it's not a black and white thing because 3 of my grandbabies are mixed. So I have nothing against black. I have nothing against white.
My name is Kelvin Mays, and I didn't come here tonight anticipating speaking, but I feel like I have to. I'm from Vidalia. My mother is an educator here. Probably taught a lot of you guys or some of your family members, Margaret Mays, for 33 years here in Vidalia. I think we kind of got off task on some things, and that's what compelled me to say something tonight. I think whatever you guys were talking about, the proposal or whatever, if you need to stay on task on that, I just thought and now I stay in Ferry. Also, my son graduated in Vidalia. I think some of the comments that were made tonight about some of the citizens in Vidalia, in the citizens in Ferry, were unnecessary, offensive, and disrespectful for what it's worth.
How's everyone tonight? My name is Lane Vestal. My first question is for the madam from the Attorney General's office. When did the Attorney General's office first become involved in this?
We became aware, so the school board reached out to us and let us know that they were in negotiations with the Department of Justice and that they were expecting a proposal, and invited the Attorney General to come meet with them. That was probably 3, maybe 4 weeks before they received the proposal.
Okay, so
Oh, it was in October.
October.
That was longer than 3 or 4 weeks.
This one's for the board attorneys. So y'all say that there has been no decision made formally. If that's the case, who drew these lines up?
There has been none, and that's straight up. These lines are what comes with the proposal.
So who came up with these? Was it the board or was it the DOJ?
The DOJ, and this came with the proposal.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Jeremy Taylor. I've got about 5 different kids between all the towns in Faraday. In Vidalia, all the schools in Vidalia. My main question is, you're fixing to send a whole bunch of kids from Vidalia that has wonderful police force, police show, to a city that just last week or just a couple days ago had the FBI and all these police forces come in for drug busts and stuff. But you're going to send, when the students are the most impressionable, most vulnerable, into a town, into a place where you have no police force because they quit every other day. They come, they go. What are y'all going to do to solve that? Are y'all going to send people in? Are y'all going to give us more police, send in more state police? I mean, I need some kind of show of how y'all are going to protect these kids y'all are sending to a school that the town can't even keep a police force. And that answers my question. I appreciate your time.
Good evening. How y'all doing? I'm Anthony White, and I recently moved here about 7 or 8 months ago. I own Wings and Things. Some of y'all might know that restaurant. I own that. Me and my wife moved here to send our son to a better school. We from Natchez. We had several properties, and we elected to sell those properties to come to Vidalia. And my son loved himself some Jason Boat. And I don't want to take him away from them, but if it mix up, I got to go. Sorry.
If I can make one more comment.
Yes, sir.
In this proposal, there's been everything mentioned except the quality of education of our kids. It's numbers, it's graphics, it's locations, but nothing, in their own words, nothing has come up to say they want to improve the education of our kids. Think about it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Derek Davis. I am a 20-year veteran of United States, 4 years Army, as well as 16 years Homeland Security, and currently a 3-year teacher, coach at Faraday High School. But what I really want to say is I'm neither for or against, because I do believe that we can do better with our proposal. Okay, I really believe that we can dig deeper by the 31st. But what I'm hearing here is that we have a big problem. And the problem is the Bible speaks of be wise as a serpent, but harmless as a dove. So how do we know to be wise as a serpent if we don't study the serpent? So what is the serpent here in this situation? The serpent is the spirit of fear. All I'm hearing is fear, fear, fear. How long it's going to take to travel? How long is this or that? Or what is the school going to be like? All I'm hearing is fear, fear, fear. If a natural disaster happened, would we help one another? If World War III happened, would we help one another? So why can't we figure out a way to help one another at this time? I do believe that you may be right. It might be a few jobs. I don't know, because I don't know the numbers. I'm not versed in that. But it may be a few jobs here or there that are lost, not many, okay? And to the other young lady, we can compete. If we combine, we can compete. Okay, everywhere we go, they have better facilities at lower districts or lower parish folds. Okay, so we can compete. I love Vidalia. Let me say that. I love Vidalia. Okay, I remember the Hoff Pirates. I remember the D Faircloths. I think they did a great job. Okay, I'm from Faraday. I graduated from Faraday. All right, I love Faraday through and through. Okay, we're doing the best job we can do. But right about now, we need everybody to come together, stop being fearful, okay, and think about what can we do better in the parish. What can we do better in the parish? I agree. Everything on both sides. So please stop being fearful and come up with solutions. We don't need to hear no more fears about this or that, or whatever the case may be. We need solutions. That is why we're here. Okay, maybe the line does not work for certain people. Okay, maybe it does not work for certain people. But we wouldn't need a line if we all combined. Today, coming past the bridge like I do every morning because I live in Natchez, right? Coming past the bridge, I didn't see anybody out there hooping and hollering and arguing and jostling for position when it was time to feed. When I think it's every second or Tuesday or every third Tuesday we give out the meals. I didn't see anyone fighting over that and saying I came an hour for that. So we can get together and do what we need to do. So I'm neither for or against. I'm simply saying that let's put our heads together because I believe you all are smart. I believe you all have done some great things in life. So let's put our heads together and see what we can do. If we all did that in an amount of 11 days, because the day is the 17, 11, 13 days, we can get it done. Thank you.
Folks, I know we're all doing good. I'm not criticizing. Let's try to stay on that 2-minute mark, okay?
This is our last one. Good evening. I'm a 2009 graduate of Vidalia and a Vidalia resident. I want to thank the board for their service. I know it's a thankless job, and I know this is a tough decision. I have actually reached out to all of you and have only been successful in talking to 4 of you. And I've read this proposed consent order that states that the school board feels this case should be dismissed. I do not know if that's how all 9 of you feel. I know that I have talked to 4 of you, and I feel like that's how y'all feel, but I do not know how the others feel. One of my main questions is, why is the Department of Justice not here tonight? And if it's true that they did not want this proposed order released, why?
So what I will say is that the board did extend an invitation to the United States Department of Justice, and we were informed that they were not able to make it tonight. I cannot speak for why they wouldn't want this proposal to be released publicly. I'm not going to speak for them, but I will say the board wanted everyone to be aware of what could happen. But I can't speak for the Department of Justice. And I'm not going to pretend to. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm not going to put words in their mouth, but what I will say is What is important to us here is to hear from you and make sure we know what this community feels like. But we did extend an invitation to them and they were not able to make it.
Is it true that they did not want this order released to the public?
We had a status conference with Judge Grell a couple weeks ago. I don't remember the exact day, but no, they did not. They had concerns about releasing it publicly. So that's your answer.
And my last question is, have you guys or anyone on the board reached out to other parishes or counties in other states that are going through the same thing, such as St. Martin Parish that just went through this last year?
Well, as I mentioned when we first entered, I actually represent St. Martin. We represent most of the parishes in the state that are undergoing desegregation. So, I work very closely with St. Martin in their case.
The Attorney General was also involved in the St. Martin case.
What was the outcome?
Is our board aware of all of these things and how this is going? Board members?
Well, the board, as we mentioned at the beginning, we will handle those questions, but I will say obviously I can't tell you any privileged discussions that we've had with the board, but I will say we are aware of what happens around the state and school boards are informed about what happens around the state. I can't say any more than that. I hope you understand that. I can't get into privilege, but we do speak to them about updates and things about what goes on around the state.
So to the board, I ask you, since this is a rush decision that just came out last week, that you take a little bit more time to think about that and consider the other option. Thank you.
Good evening to everyone. I've been told that I'm the last speaker, and I'm kind of glad because I just got a couple things.
I apologize, sir. Not to interrupt you, but to the four people standing up right now, it has been very valuable to us to hear from you, and we're not trying to cut off anybody. But the four people who are standing right now, we would ask these people ask for, so that we will have something after the four of you speak. But we value everyone's opinion, but at some point we do have to let the board We'll let you know after the four speakers, but we would ask these four standings would be the last four right now.
All right, I'll be very brief. My name is Don Lucas. I'm a local pastor here in the area. I am also a former educator in North Mississippi. I just want to say two things and ask for one favor. The first thing I want you to consider is justice for all. The second thing I want you to consider is equality for all. And that will solve this entire problem. And the favor that I want to ask you as a pastor is to consider this prayerfully. I almost feel like praying right now because there is so much attention in the room that should not be here. We're here for the advancement of our children. Let's work towards that in a positive way. And I'll say my brief prayer in Jesus' name.
Hello. I have two quick questions. The first one is, I heard you say that they may move 500 to 600 kids to the upper elementary. I was just wondering, do y'all know what the classroom sizes are going to be if you do that, or if there's going to be any accommodations made for more classrooms? That's a very small school.
Yes, when we spoke with the Department of Justice about the capacities, I mean, the school can fit that many students under BESI regulations. For pre-K to 3, we can go up to 25 to 1, and beyond that, it's 33 to 1. That's not to say we want to do that here. Now, I want to be clear. This is not, we are not saying we want to have a classroom of 33 to 1 in the 4th grade. Please, if I may. As of right now, I can't answer the question of what those classrooms would look like. But look, right now we do have smaller class sizes. We're aware of that. We don't desire to do the maximum. But when we look at these types of proposals, we do look at the capacities in the schools.
Okay. And my second question is, are you going to be hiring more teachers? Do the teachers who are currently employed, are they going to keep their jobs? Are there going to be teacher changes? Are they going to have to reapply?
So right now, look, if, and again, no decision has been made. The board has no desire right now to lay anybody off. We would try our best to make accommodations for folks. But as of right now, the proposal, the Department of Justice is not looking for us to terminate anybody.
Okay.
They're looking to try to make sure that, you know, teachers can stay there, but we can't guarantee that at the end of the day. But nobody desires to fire anybody.
Okay. Thank you. Please vote no.
Okay, so I'm up here again to ask questions about the timeline of all this. So this case it started in 1965. That's correct. So this case is about segregation. It's about making sure that there is equality and fairness within our schools so that no child has to deal with any kind of intimidation, any harm, any bullying like made by race. Everyone should be equal. There should be no problems between anybody, no matter what the color of skin or where they're from, right? So why is it that this case has only just now become a dire issue? And why is it that now it has to be finished with a very controversial plan before the 31st? I don't want to say that it's because of corrupt purposes. I don't want to say that it's just because of something with money, but it does not sit right with me that my family and presumably everyone else in this room has only been known about the situation for about a week and have only had their chances to make their little petition for 4 days. Was that how long it's been up? I'm sure there would be a lot more signatures and a lot more uproar, maybe even a lot more people in this room if we had more time to know about this, to understand what's going on. And I'm uneasy about the fact that we've gotten very little information about why this is happening other than a judge wants to get a case off of his docket because he's going to leave very soon. And that's something very important for everyone to understand right now. Thank you for your time.
Let me clarify this. The December 31st deadline is the deadline of the board to respond to the proposal. It is not the judge saying, I'm going to decide this case by December 31st. As I started off earlier, there's two ways to resolve a case, either through some type of resolution, or if not, then it proceeds to trial. This is the court simply telling us that we need to respond to the Justice Department by December 31st. So I don't want there to be any misunderstanding as to what the court has instructed.
I'm Willie Bordelon. I've been living in the Vidalia area since 2012. I've had children to go to Faraday. I've had children to go to Delta Charter. I've had children going to CPA, and I got children going to Vidalia. I hear unity. What's the number one thing for children to learn? It's consistency. I ain't heard the word consistency popped up tonight, not one time. But you see a little history on me is I'm one of those children that was going to school in a Boyles Parish when they done this same crap that y'all are pulling right now, or they're wanting to pull right now. One of those children that rode a bus for 3 hours to go to school. It wasn't fun. The dropout rate doubled, almost tripled in the first 3 years. This was 37 years ago, people. Have y'all been to a Boyles Parish? There ain't a whole lot there. What industry do they have? They got a casino. They got people that work in the oil field. They got people work commercial fishing. They got people working in the logging industry. Same thing we have here. Our schools is what holds our people here. I own property in DeVille. Don't think I won't send my child back to Buckeye. I love this town. I love my job. I have to travel across the river to go to my work. But I ain't above moving out of here for my child.
Ain't nothing about being scared. Because I promise you, I ain't scared of nobody ain't standing in this room. But here's the thing. I don't want my child to have the struggles that I had when I was her age. Because I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt for it, and I'm still wearing it today. Thank y'all, and you have a nice day.
So I do want to, I guess I'll get up here so everybody can see me. You know, I do want to clarify something about the timeline too. I mean, the board received this first, as we've mentioned, and as Ms. Brungard mentioned, as the attorneys, we've been talking to the Department of Justice for a couple of months, which is pretty standard. And this proposal in its current form was presented to the board, the first week of December. We met with the board in executive session last Monday, and that's when the board made the decision. We're going to release it to you all. So, this case has been pending for a long time. And Judge Drell has told us, he wants to try to quote him, he wants a period on the end of this case, not an ellipses. But as Mr. Geis indicated, the shape that takes, well, it's going to depend on the decision the board makes. It can be by resolution or settlement, if you want to use that word, or the judge is going to make the decision. So, we appreciate everyone's comments. We thank everyone for coming up today to speak your mind. It's been valuable. We appreciate everybody who came out tonight to meet. And again, I'm glad we were able to move this to the convention center. But before you all go, I do want to hand this over to Ms. Foreman, our board president, because I think that we have something that's, we may have a few things before we adjourn.
Thank y'all very much. I really do appreciate everybody being here. We are at this moment going to see if anyone wants to make a motion to add an item to our agenda for us to vote on whether, well, I guess I can say it yet. Okay, we're gonna vote tonight on whether to accept this proposal or not to accept this proposal, but we have to go through all the motions, so y'all just be patient with us for just a minute.
Madam President, you first need a motion to add the item to the agenda. That requires a vote of the board.
Okay, I make a motion that we take the agenda, or I need to read all of it, to voting.
You move to add an item on the agenda for the board to respond to the proposal from the Justice Department.
Okay, so we have the motion by Ms. Hall, and we have a second by Mr. King. Now I need all in favor, say aye. Oh, wait a minute, we got to do this as a roll call. Sorry, y'all, I'm just in my 12th month of this.
To start with Parker, Mr. Fred Marsalis. Yes. Ms. Vanessa Powell. Mr. Derek Carson. Ms. Angela Hayes. Mr. Wayne Wilson. Mr. Matt Tanton. Mr. Fred Butcher.
Yes.
Ms. Lisette Foreman. We have 8 yeas.
Madam President, let the record reflect that it was a unanimous vote to add. Are there any other motions that need, or items that need to be added to the agenda?
I would like to add a motion to the agenda for the board to consider retaining or enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with Attorney General of the State of Louisiana, Attorney General.
Okay, so we have a motion made by Mr. Carson, second by Mr. Marsalis and Mr. Butcher.
That would be to add to the agenda the consideration of a cooperative with the AG's office to assist in this matter. Correct, Mr. Carson?
Correct. All right, now we will need a roll call vote on that, please.
Ms. Dorothy Parker. Yes. Mr. Fred Marsalis.
Yes.
Ms. Vanessa Powell. Yes. Mr. Derek Carson.
Yes.
Ms. Angela Hayes. Yes. Mr. Wayne Wilson. Mr. Matt Tanton. Mr. Fred Butcher.
Yes.
Ms. Lisette Foreman.
Okay, so it was
Madam
unanimous.
President, that's a unanimous vote. So procedurally for the audience, the board has now added to its previously posted agenda the 2 additional items, which the board can now take up. They are officially on your agenda, Madam President.
Thank you, sir. All right, so now we need, Ms. Sarah, we need a roll call vote for the first motion of.
Madam President, may I interrupt?
Yes, you may.
It's just on the agenda now to discuss. We will need a separate motion as to what action the board wishes to take on the proposal.
So we don't need a yes or no's?
Well, at this point, we don't have a motion yet as to what the board would like to do.
Okay, so I have to have a second.
You have to have a second.
Okay. Ms. Howe made the motion, Mr. Butcher made the second. Now,
No, first you need to ask if there's any additional comment that we have received, other than what we've received so far. Yes. Is there any additional comment that would like to be made by the public prior to this vote? No additional comment. If there's not any comment from the board, we can entertain a roll call vote. Yes.
Mr. Arthur Parker? Mr. Fred Marsalis?
No.
Let me, hold on just a second. Hold on just a second.
The motion is to vote no against the proposal.
Let me clarify this, Madam President. A yes vote rejects the proposal. Okay? So if you would begin the roll call vote again, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Arthur? Mr. Fred Marsalis?
Yes.
Ms. Vanessa Howe? Mr. Derek Carson?
Yes.
Ms. Angela Hayes? Mr. Wayne Wilson? Mr. Matt Tanton? Mr. Fred Butcher?
Yes.
Ms. Lisette Foreman? Yes.
Well, could you please announce the vote? What was the vote, the number?
It was 8 yeas.
they were all yeses to reject the proposal. And Mr. Wilson did want it known that his vote was to reject the proposal also.
Okay, that vote, we can't count that vote, but we can note his comment.
So I would like to make the motion that we enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement for the Attorney General to defend us with this matter. In my understanding, the Attorney General has offered their services for free. Is that correct?
Do we have a second on that? Okay, members of the public, we must ask if there's any additional comment from the public before the board comments and votes.
Thank you.
Call for the question. Just. Call for the question.
Question has been called. Roll call vote, please. A yes
The
vote.
motion is yes to hire the Attorney General's, or to let the Attorney General's office represent us. Or no. Cooperative endeavor for free. Yes, I can talk.
Mr. Arthur Parker? Mr. Fred Marsalis? Ms. Vanessa Howe? Mr. Derek Carson?
Please hold it down so we can hear.
Ms. Angela Hayes? Mr. Wayne Wilson? Mr. Matt Tanton? Mr. Fred Butcher?
Yes.
Ms. Lisette Foreman? Yes. 8 yeas.
8 yeas.
Okay, so the Attorney General's office will be assisting.
Just one little statement. We are the board, we represent you. So you stay in touch with us, please. You know, somebody said we vote, we represent you, Mr. Mayor. We represent you. Please, there'll be other issues that will come and we need your input. I'm not voting for myself, I'm representing the district, the parish, everybody. We represent you.
Thank you.